Hi everyone, this is attorney Lillian with Lily Legal. So today I want to talk to you all about the ways that you can safeguard your mental health while you're going through the green card process. The green card process can be extremely stressful, and I want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. This topic actually came up because I was talking to a potential client. We were talking about their journey and how the process is going to go, and making sure that as they're going through the process that they are protecting themselves. They're taking steps to make sure that they are good mentally so that the green card process does not mess up their day-to-day life, right? This is something your lawyer can help you with by, taking away some of that stress and answering a lot of your questions up front so that as you're going through the process, you know what's going on step by step. So, that's what we're going to go through today, the different ways that you can safeguard your mental health while going through the green card process. If this sounds interesting to you, if you are interested in learning about green card, citizenship, how to get it, how to keep it, this is the place for you. Go ahead and subscribe. If you find this video interesting, go ahead and like the video, share the video. And if you would like to schedule a private consultation with me, where we can talk about your green card journey, your citizenship journey, go ahead and do that by going to my website, lilylegal.com, or by calling my office at 508-443-1788. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into this. So, when you're going through your green card journey, whether it's through marriage, whether it's through asylum, whether it is through your children, or if you are self petitioning. So, for example, if you're filing through VAWA, a U visa, a T visa, those self petitions are places that you really want to safeguard your mental health, because it can get really stressful. It can get really detailed and can lead to you basically remembering everything that has happened to you in those self-petition applications. So I want to make sure that you are self-guarding yourself, okay? You are safeguarding yourself. You are making sure that you are putting yourself first, right? Like I said at the beginning, your lawyer is there to make sure your application is filed and that things are moving properly. Your job is to take care of yourself, right? Your job is to provide documents to your lawyer. But what I tell my clients is you need to take care of yourself, because if I'm asking you for information, but it is triggering you, it is going to take 10 times longer, right? So, but if you are protecting your mental health, if you are taking care of yourself, it's going to make it easier for you to work with a lawyer to get your applications out, to get things going. All right. So the first thing you need to do when you're going through the green card process to protect yourself and make sure that you are not overly stressed out, because this is the most stressful part, right? You need to educate yourself, because if you don't know what the next steps are, what's going on in your case, what the whole process takes, right? What the timelines are, what the requirements are, you are going to stress yourself out, right? If you're thinking that, oh, it's going to take like a month or two to get a green card, and then you file and find out that, oh, it can take up to 2 years if the person is in the US, and if they're outside of the US, it can even take 3 or 4 years, right? You went from thinking, oh, this is a 2-month process to now 2 to 4 year process. That can be extremely stressful. But if you know that at the beginning, right? If before you even file, you already know, oh, this is a long process. This is going to take time. Or, oh, there's these requirements, right? I am required, if I'm filing a green card application, for example, through marriage, you are required to have your marriage certificate. You are required to have a divorce decree if you've ever been married before. If you currently do not have it physically with you and you have to request it from your home country, right, that can really stress people out because now they're like, oh, we're almost at the time to file, and now this comes up. That's why I give my clients checklists. So you know exactly what documents I'm asking from you from day one, and you can start working to get those documents. So you want to make sure that you know the requirements, you know the timelines, and you know the necessary documents, right, as you're going through the process. Like I said, if you're working with a lawyer, this is your lawyer's job to help you stay on top of it, right? To help you know what the requirements are, what the timeline is, what they are expecting of you through the process. But knowing what to expect can help you alleviate anxiety and provide a sense of control. Because, like I said, once you know what's required, once you know, oh, this is how long this is going to take, you are not going to stress out when it's been only a year and the process is still ongoing because you went through the process to educate yourself. So, that is the first thing. You need to educate yourself. The next step is seeking emotional support, especially if your spouse is not in the US. If you're filing as a self petitioner, so the VAWAs, the U visa, the T visa, if you are filing through any of those applications to get your green card, if your spouse or your parent or your child that you're filing for is not in the US and you are just filing for them, waiting for them to get here, please get some emotional support because guess what? Like I said, it's going to take time. If you're filing for family, it's going to take time. And that's a lot of separation, right? If you're separated from your spouse for 2, 3, 4 years, that can put a lot of strain on your relationship. So it is so important that as you're going through this process, you are checking in with your spouse, you are checking in with your support system. So family, friends, even support groups. And if you have the ability to get a therapist to help you through the situation, please do that. Now, if you're filing VAWA, U visa, T visa, please, right? This is one of the first conversations I have with my clients. Please, if you need to see a therapist, if you are already seeing a therapist, continue seeing the therapist, right? If you are already in a support group, continue going to the support group because if you're doing a self petition, if you're doing a VAWA application, you have to basically tell the US government all the abuse that you have been through, right? If you're doing a U visa, you have to go and talk about the crime that was committed against you and how it has affected you. You have to, if you're doing a T visa, you have to talk about how you were trafficked, what that looked like, right? So you have to relive those experiences that you are working to forget, that you are working to get over. When you're filing these self petitions, you have to relive those moments. So that's why I say get emotional support. Because as you're going through that process and reliving this moment, it is going to put you back to the mental state that you do not want to be in. Okay. And I tell people this: we can file your self petition, but if you are not good mentally, even when you get your green card, you have it, but I want you to also have yourself, right? Think about that. You want to also be whole as you're getting your green card. You know that you are now in a new space in your life. So it is so important that as you're going through this, get emotional support. And like I said, it can be through trusted friends, family, and a support group. Or if you have a therapist, you can also talk to your therapist as you're going through this process so that you have that support as you're either being separated from your family or reliving some traumatic experiences in your life. All right. Now, part of this whole thing is also having realistic expectations. right? You need to understand that the process has its challenges, it has delays that you cannot control, right? There are certain places where you cannot control how the embassy decides to process applications, how quickly they're processing applications. You know, one thing is if you filed your application during COVID or right before COVID hit, you know, right? If you're watching this and your spouse, your family is outside of the US and you're filing for them, you know that the embassies were closed. For some embassies were closed for 2 years, and you are now still in line, even though your application should have been approved by now. So when I say having realistic expectations, knowing that some things are out of your control, some things are going to be out of your control and out of your lawyer's control, right? Because no one could have foreseen the pandemic happening or that embassies being closed for 2 years and having 2 years, additional 2 years of applications to process, right? We couldn't foresee that. So having realistic expectations also means knowing that delays are going to happen, that things may happen that are out of your control. So when I'm going through these, just know that they all relate to each other, right? When those unexpected things happen, that's where your emotional support system comes in, right? That's where you can lean on your family, on your friends, on your support group, because you want to make sure that you are not stressing yourself out, right? It is a stressful situation. You are being separated for longer than expected, right? But just know it is not you, right? It is not you. You did not create the pandemic. You did not make the embassies close. You did not do any of that. All right? It is not about your application, right? You did you did your part. You filed your application, you provided the documents, and you are waiting for the embassy to do their part. And knowing that, I hope gives you some peace, right? It is not you. But it can sometimes feel overwhelming. So that's where having your support system comes in. That's where having realistic expectations of what can happen, right? Also, patience is really essential, especially when we know that some of these things are out of your control. So just make sure that you are leaning into your support, that you are having some realistic expectations. Again, if you're working with a lawyer, it's their job to set, to give you those expectations. Like, what can I actually expect when I'm going through this process? Right. So right now, when people come to me, they want to file for a spouse that's outside of the US. I tell them straight up, depending on the country. So if you're filing in an African country, I tell people the first part, the I-130 can take up to, 15 months, depending on where the file is. And then once it's approved, sent to the National Visa Center, depending on the country, you may be waiting another 2 to 3 years for an interview. And that is scary, right? Thinking that you're starting this process and it's going to take what, 4 years? That is scary. But I like setting realistic expectations for my clients because I don't want you to get the process started and then all of a sudden, oh, why is this taking so long? Well, that's the normal processing time, right? They're still backed up from COVID. No, I want you to know that on the front end because that will help relieve some of the stress. That's part of me educating you of what the process is by setting the expectations. So it is so important that you set realistic expectations for yourself. If you're not working with a lawyer, if you are, it's important that your lawyer sets those realistic expectations for you of what to expect as you're going through this process. All right. You definitely want to practice some self care. I know, buzzword, self-care. But you want to make sure that as you're going through this process, as you're dealing with USCIS, as you're dealing with embassies, that you are taking care of yourself, right? You are taking time to just center yourself, to, do the things you enjoy. And sometimes when we talk self-care, people think, okay, you're supposed to like meditate and, go get your nails done, go get your hair done, things like that. But sometimes it's just doing the things you enjoy, taking time out to do the things you enjoy, where you're not thinking about your immigration process, right? That's the main thing. Do something that you enjoy that does not involve your green card process. Um, because that can really help relieve some of the stress, anxiety that you are going through. All right. Of course, there are stress relieving techniques that you can practice, like deep breathing, meditation, journaling, yoga, right? You can do those things to help reduce your anxiety, to help promote your mental wellness. But if those things don't work for you, it's okay, right? You want to discover what works for you, what helps you relax, what helps you take your mind off of the stress that is the process, right? And sometimes for my clients, right? Sometimes for my clients, it is having a conversation with me, right? Just checking in to see, okay, where are we in the process? Is this normal? Right? Is there something going on here that we need to work on? Is there options that we need to explore? Right? Having those conversations can also be stress relieving. So do not think that, you know, only meditation and journaling and yoga is the way to release your stress. Sometimes it's having a, you know, realistic conversation with your attorney to figure out, where am I, right? Is this really how the process is? Is there any way to speed things up? All right. So that can be really helpful. And like I mentioned before, reaching out to a professional, right? I am a big advocate for therapy because it has helped me personally. And I think that it is something that if you are really struggling, right? If you are overwhelmed with stress, if you have anxiety, depression, because you're going through this process, seeking professional help is amazing because they are trained to help you find coping mechanisms, support, right? Someone that you can just go and tell them what you're thinking, what's going on, how everything is affecting you. And you know that that person's job is to listen and to give you advice on how you can process your emotions, right? Because it's a lot. I tell people it's a lot, especially when you are separated from your spouse, from your children. That is a lot to go through, right? Because every day you wake up and you're like, okay, this process is going on, but man, I wish my family was here. I wish they can see this. I wish I can be there and see, see my kids wake up and go to school. And you're going through these emotions every single day. And sometimes you just need someone to talk to that's not family, that's not friends, that you can just tell exactly how you feel. And their job is to listen to you. So that's why I always say you have the option of seeking professional help because they are trained to help you find the ways. Like we were talking about stress relieving techniques, your therapist can actually help you find those techniques that actually work for you. Like I said, not everyone is going to be, meditation doesn't work for everyone, right? Meditation may not be your thing, but that's what your therapist can help you with. Find those stress relieving techniques that work for you so that as you're going through this process, you know that you are supported, not just by your family and friends, but by a professional that can help tweak your techniques and make sure that you are you are taking care of yourself, right? Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And then the last thing I want to talk about is celebrating small victories, right? As you're going through this process, there's a lot of steps. There's a lot of steps, okay? Whether you're filing for a spouse that's in the US, a spouse that's outside of the US, you're doing a self petition, there's a lot of steps between you starting the process and the process ending with a green card. So every single step that you complete, celebrate it, right? There's different milestones. For example, in my office, when we go from requesting documents to getting all the clients' documents, and we're ready now to put everything together, that's a milestone that we celebrate, right? When we send the client the forms to fill out or the forms to sign, and we're ready to file it, when we send out the application to USCIS, we celebrate. And we send an email to a client, hey, by the way, we have sent your application out. That's a time to celebrate because you are taking steps. When USCIS comes back and say, we have received your application and we are processing it, that's a small victory right there, because guess what? They did not reject your application, right? They're saying, we received the form, we received the payment, we received what we need from you to accept your application. That's a small victory that you should be celebrating. When USCIS is processing your application and they decide to schedule you for an interview, them scheduling you for an interview is time to celebrate, right? Because that means you are one step closer. When they decide, when USCIS decides that, oh, we are going to approve this I-130 and send it to the National Visa Center, and you get that notice saying that it's been approved and they're sending it to the National Visa Center, that's time to celebrate. When you when it gets to the National Visa Center, they set up the account. You can log in and upload your documents and fill out the DS-260. Once you fill out the DS-260 and press that submit button, you celebrate. Once you upload all your documents and submit, and MVC sends you an email saying, hey, we have everything we need from you, right? We are now going to put you in line for an interview, and let the embassy know that you've given us all the documents we need. You should be celebrating, right? So even though your end goal clearly is to have your green card in your hand, know that there's so many steps in between you starting the process and you getting your green card that you can celebrate. So those small victories, celebrate them, because it may not seem like a lot. It's not your green card in your hand, but it's one step closer to your green card in your hand. It's one step closer to having your family join you back in the US. It's one step closer to now having your life stable in the US. So I say celebrate the small victories, even just picking up the phone and calling a lawyer and scheduling a consultation, right? That's a victory because you are taking steps. And don't let anyone tell you that the small steps you're taking is not enough. Because guess what? You could have done nothing, right? You could have stayed, you know, you could have decided not to file. You could have let the timeline stop you. You could have let a lot of things stop you, but you started the process and you are moving through the process. So guess what? Celebrate it. As small as it is, celebrate it. Okay? Be proud of yourself for taking steps and know that right? You have educated yourself so you know what's expected. You know what the requirements are. You know that you have provided USCIS with the documents they need to approve your case. You know that once it gets to the National Visa Center, you have the documents they need to get your case in line for an interview. And you also know that it is taking time to get those interviews scheduled. So you are not stressing out because you know, okay, I've done my part. right? You have done your part. You have made sure that the parts that you play, that you did it well. USCIS has approved your application, right? They have accepted your application. MVC has accepted that you have, you know, given them everything they need to get you in line for an interview. Now you just wait for an interview. So I think once you understand that it's okay to celebrate the small victories, it's okay to have emotional support, right? It's okay to take care of yourself while you're going through this process. Actually, it's not even just okay, it is essential. It is essential that you take care of yourself while you're going through this process because let's say, right? Let's say you don't take care of yourself. You let the stress get to you. MVC comes to you and it's like, hey, okay, it's time for you to upload the documents. Because you're so stressed out, you don't take steps, right? You are crippled by your anxiety and you do not take steps that's required by the MVC. That just delays your case even more. So it is so important that you're taking care of yourself mentally, that you are taking time, right? You are taking time to do things that you enjoy, knowing fully well that you are separated or that you are going through this green card process. But just know there is an end goal that you're going for. There are small victories along the way, and that you should enjoy those small victories. You should celebrate the small victories because the big one is still coming. But while you're on the way to the big one, enjoy the small victories. All right. So I know this is a little different from our weekly lives, but I just wanted to take the time because I literally had this conversation with a potential client this week about taking care of themselves while going through their green card process. So I wanted to make sure that you know that you should also take care of yourself while you're going through the green card process. All right. So that is all I have for you this week. If you have questions, if you want to talk about, the struggles you're going through, please feel free to put them in the comments. I am here to help. I will send resources that are available to help you in any way I can. And as always, if you would like to talk to me about your specific immigration issues, please feel free to do that by going to my website, lilylegal.com, or by calling my office at 508-443-1788. Okay, so as always, I am Lillian Chukura. I am a US based immigration lawyer and I help my clients get green cards and citizenships for themselves and their families using the US immigration law system. Thank you and have a great one. Bye bye.